Welcome back. We are in a new location again. Today we are in the backyard of my garden. Um, and we have some reclining chairs with a mosquito net and sun and rain shade, and we have some new plants in the background this time and the rainforest behind that. Uh, Today's episode, we're going to be sharing some news, and the title of the episode is She Said Never, but She Never Said No. And we're going to be sharing about relationships, our relationship, the surrender experiment, and more things. So begin.
So last time we spoke or we recorded a video, I was still not fully sure what am I here for, what I came to Brazil to experience, and what's the purpose of me being here, basically. And 3-4 weeks ago, maybe less than that, I guess 3 weeks ago or so, I had this epiphany that my roots are in Brazil and that I'm meant to live here and I am finally back home. Funny thing is that I come from Lithuania originally, and in 2011, I left Lithuania for the first time, and I lived in 6 countries before coming to Brazil. And I always had this need to be able to pack all of my belongings in a couple of bags and leave whenever I please. And this was the first time in my life that I had a feeling, wow, I really am back at home and I want to settle. And it's the first time that I feel there's no need for me to have to pack my stuff quickly and leave. And there's no need for me to be a minimalist, and I can finally have a bunch of amazing shirts like this and not care about how many I have of them. And that epiphany led me to also get closer with Tio and start seeing him in a different light, which was a huge shock for me and probably not quite a shock for you.
No.
But for me, it was, because we were spending a lot of time together. And somehow I just started seeing him differently. I was like, wow, he's so beautiful. And I started seeing this inner beauty translating into his outer beauty, which was a big surprise to me, because indeed I did say never. And yet, as soon as I started seeing him differently, it's like, what is going on here? Let's explore. So yeah, things have changed since last time we recorded a YouTube video.
What's happened? What's changed?
What happened, what has changed is that we are in a relationship now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did that happen?
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Well, for me, I had this deep inner knowing that it's going to happen, which is why it was not a surprise for me. Like, the when I first expressed my feelings, I already knew that we're going to be together, but it was nothing obvious because I had still not expressed my feelings. I still did not know how she felt. I had no clue how the distance between Portugal and Brazil would work. I had no idea if she would be willing to move or how things would shape out. But I knew that we are going to be together. And then when I expressed my feelings to her, she just acknowledged my feelings but did not reciprocate. And then I invited her to Brazil and she said yes to that. And next week she was in Brazil. And the week after that, I asked her the question, do you ever see us being together? And she said never. My immediate response to that was, I don't believe in never. I did not feel any real pain or sadness. It was just like, yeah, I don't believe you. But I respected it, right? We were still friends and we continued developing our friendship and it kept getting deeper and deeper. And for almost 6 to 7 weeks, we were just platonic friends and everything was great as friends. And then then something shifted and I realized that I had been buying into her story of never. And at some level, I had kind of started telling myself, oh, like maybe I'm being delusional. Maybe that knowing that I have was a delusion and it's not going to happen and it's not really meant to be. And then about 2 weeks back, or 3 weeks back, I stopped buying her story. And I told her, like, I don't buy your story anymore. I am fully sure that we are
It's
going to
gonna
be in a,
happen.
yeah. And then,
And I still laughed. I
yeah.
was like, ha ha ha, what? I don't believe you. Nice try.
And then I think it was the week after that where you started seeing things differently. And the week after that is when we got together. So it's been 1 week that we've been officially in a romantic relationship, but we've been very intimate friends and very vulnerable with each other for quite some time anyway. So it's just one more dimension has been added. A few more dimensions have been added to what already existed, or what the relationship that already existed. And yeah, it's just become deeper.
So a few things shifted from my side when it comes to those 3 weeks ago, what actually happened. And number one is that, well, I physically spent a lot of time with you and your dogs. And
By
I
physically, you mean like in here,
being
being here?
here in
Yeah.
this space. And what I started realizing is that it felt like I'm home and it felt like it's my family. Without us being romantically involved, I was already calling us family. And then I was like, where is this coming from? I even said it out loud several times. So that was number one sign
And
that,
we,
okay,
we, we
something's
said it's
happening.
a non-romantic asexual family.
Non-romantic, asexual, open relationship,
Yes.
which is a family.
Yes.
And but really, it did really feel like a family. I felt like for the first time in my life, I feel in this space, in this dynamic with you and the three fur babies as a family without having any romantic stuff going on, which was very interesting. Number two was the fact that at the time I was still going through letting go of my past relationship, something that I wasn't even realizing at the time, because at the time I was still in touch with that person. And at the time, it wasn't fully clear what that relationship was going to look like moving forward, because I am here in Brazil, he is there in Portugal, and we were still figuring things out. And I gave myself permission to feel this through, to think through all of the things that, like, okay, what does it even mean? Who is that person to me? And do I envision myself with him? Do I envision myself going back to Europe? Or like what is it that relationship meant for me? And I wasn't fully sure until at some point I just knew that it had to come to an end. And interestingly, he felt it too. So he already felt that something was happening on my side. Probably he was prematurely also making some assumptions where I wasn't even aware of my own conclusions yet. But to cut long story short, as soon as that ended, I realized that I energetically opened a door to something new. And I really completely cut off that old relationship, that old dynamic, and that old stagnant energy was released suddenly, and I was free again. I released myself to be free. I released myself from that person. I released myself from, in a sense, being possessed by that person. I realized it or not. And it was a very deep um energetic game, let's call it like that, because at the time, again, I wasn't even consciously aware of what was happening, but something was holding me back. And as soon as I made the decision, or we made that decision at the end, then I was like, wow, okay, that is gone. That is my past. I'm letting go of the past. And as soon as that happened, basically the next day, I was really, like, the same day, and from how many hours, I was really suffering, and it was really, really painful. But I was sitting with all of those feelings and letting them flow through me without holding back, without dwelling, without victimizing myself, without blaming the other person, but with full acceptance and with full love towards him, towards myself, and towards the lives that we're creating. And when that happened, basically a day later or so, I really felt this huge relief that, oh, I'm free, and I can do what I want, and I can feel what I want to feel, and I can live my life fully, finally, without holding back, without putting myself in a box, without keep keeping myself in a cage. And that was a huge shift, I think, for us also, when suddenly that new energy and that new freedom allowed me to start seeing him in a different light. Because before that, I was like, whatever, we're just friends, and it's a beautiful family, but nothing is going to happen. Never. It's never going to happen. That was the story in my head. But then suddenly I started seeing things differently, and that's thanks to the energy release.
Mm. You also want to talk about the shadow that came up. You spoke
Yes.
about it a bit already, but yeah,
Yes. So the shadow that came up, that was very interesting.
that was the biggest blockage, really.
That was the biggest blockage. And that was that I could not have imagined myself to be with someone who I thought was not my type. And that means physical appearance. And basically, this shadow came up, and I asked you, Tio, like, what do you think when women are, too consumed with how the man looks, if they're handsome, if they're good looking, if they're, like, have trained bodies and are super active and blah blah blah, all that stuff. And the thing is that that has been my pattern for as long as I remember myself. And I've been in relationships with very handsome men, and somehow it, I even had a criteria list of how I envision my partner to be like and look like. And apart from all of the characteristics, like being kind and polite and having a great purpose and being a gentleman and caring about, like, family, or things like that, there was also, it has to be someone who just fits me physically. Like, I feel extreme sexual attraction and physical attraction to this person because they look great. But then I thought, wait a second. That was, again, it was probably 2, 3 weeks ago, when I started addressing that and being like, wait a second, where is this coming from? Why do I believe that? Why do I need that? Where How can I release all of this? Because it first of all, it has to come from somewhere. And second of all, is it actually serving me? Is that belief, is that shadow making any, like, sense? And when we had that conversation, and I started addressing this shadow, what I realized is that, yeah, it's just that I was afraid of what my family will say, what my friends will say, and what will people think. So, like, 3 levels. first of all, yes, within my family, for whatever reason, I wanted to be with a partner who will be appealing to them, like, oh, such a great guy and looks a certain way and probably like Lithuanian looking and so on. Then regarding friends, well, they're all used to me dating good looking people. And then what people will think, I don't even know why I cared about that, to be honest. But
But that is the cultural programming also is like there's a lot like the whole we have a deep need for social acceptance and what we believe or how we believe we will be accepted socially and how we believe we will be rejected.
yeah,
It's ingrained through movies, TV, a lot of programming that we are being given constantly.
yeah. And the beautiful thing about it all is that ever since I started addressing all these topics, I started seeing you in such a different way. Like, you're so handsome to me now. And it's like, oh my God, he's so beautiful. And I didn't see that before addressing this topic. Before that, it was like, yeah, okay, he has some imperfections and like he's not my type and things like that. And then I started seeing you in such a different light. And it's like that inner beauty started shining through your appearance. And look at you all, is even with these shirts. Like, how amazing is that? So yeah, so that was a huge shift as well.
Hmm. And I guess, people will ask me, how do I feel about all of that? And I had to work through all of that because that's been the story of my life. Even my first girlfriend, she basically like she was also the most beautiful woman in her class, and she was older than me, and she was always dating supermodels. That was her past. And then when she met me, of course, her initial thought was also she did not even consider that we would be together. But the first time I saw her again, I just knew that we're going to be together. And it was an impossibility because also like in India, there's lots of social complication and age factor and looks and all of this. So anyway, I am I realize this about myself that when I have that knowing, I will pursue it. I will not give up. I have a very strong conviction. I have the knowing. I can keep going, and I have a lot of patience. So it doesn't matter like if it takes 1 month, 1 year, or 10 years. If I have that knowing, I can be committed to it and materialize it however long it takes. And no matter what path it takes, like if I have to go through some pain, like you being with your ex or saying never or whatever it is, whatever the journey is, I will go through it because something inside, deep inside me is telling me that's where I'm meant to go. And I think it's very rare for people to have that level of conviction, that level of knowing, and that dedication to themselves to follow that voice. Because most of the times the ego will come in and distract and say, oh, she said never, you should give up. Oh, you're not worth it. Oh, you're not good looking. Oh, you're this or that. And the looks part of it, I had to work a lot because coming back to my first girlfriend, even she said, when we got together, also she said, well, you're not good looking, but you have some interesting features. But I'm not with you because of your looks. You are just a lovely person, and that is what attracts me. So that obviously, like, even further lowered my self-esteem and my self-worth and the way I looked at myself. And basically, I just kept creating the story that I don't look good, but I was looking at myself through the eyes of the world. And few years back, that shifted. I realized that my story about myself is not really my story. It's the world's story about me. And I don't need to stay attached to that anymore. And I can decide to accept the way I look and see that as beautiful. And that there is a lot of beauty in everyone, the way they look. And it's my challenge to see that. It's my uh gift to see that beauty in people. And that is what has also made me a very skilled and trusted facilitator, that people see that I don't judge them for these kinds of characteristics. I look past the appearances, the superficial appearances, and I can see them for who they really are. I can see beyond the way the world looks at them, because that's what appearances are, right? Like when we start judging appearances, we are not really judging them the way we see people. We are judging them the way culture tells us to see them. And that is something I learned to drop. And I can see people's real beauty. I can see through all their appearances, their behaviors, their ego, their masks, and see who they really are. Like when we started talking, you had the German mask, which was very direct and very German. And we have a few episodes on that also. And but I could see who you really are underneath that also. And that's the one I started loving, and I still love, and that's the one that has come to the surface now. But the thing is, I stopped caring about how people look at me. I learned to look at myself without those filters, and I also learned how to show my beauty to the people who are ready to see it. And I chose the story that my looks are intentional. I have chosen these looks so that it only appeals to people who can look past the superficial, the appearance, and connect with my real beauty. Only the one who has the patience to see my real beauty are the people I want in my life. The people who just want to reject me because I look a certain way or behave a certain way or dress a certain way, I don't even want them in my life, because people are like, oh, you have to be professional, you have to wear all these formal shirts and a tie and a coat and a whatever fucking shit. But this is what I wear, and if that is not good enough for you, you are not good enough for me. And that's it for me.
Did anything shift for you when I started seeing you differently, when I started finding you handsome and attractive?
It was a shock to the level at which you started seeing me that way, because I have never been seen that way, or I have never accepted or received that fully, because there are women who have told me that before, uh, but I was not ready to receive it. With you, I've been able to. I had to work through it because it was almost painful to hear that many times. When you were saying that, it was like, oh, is it real? And I could feel that it's real, but my ego parts that was still unconscious was still so used to rejecting that, or not, or believing the opposite, that I had to work through it. But now I'm able to fully receive it. And one of the things I told you at one point was, I want to see myself through your eyes, because the way you see me is even richer than the way I see myself. And I started doing that, and like, yeah, it's just been a very healing journey the last few weeks.
Even for me, on the other hand, it was also very healing to be seen not for my pretty face, but to be seen for who I really am. And that has been a challenge for me on the other side of the spectrum, when I'm just seen as this beautiful woman and very attractive woman, and Eastern European woman who has, just a beautiful appearance and blah blah blah. And there are a lot of misconceptions that come with that. And with you, I sure I still feel very beautiful, but even more so, I feel beautiful and powerful as a human being. And that is something that no one ever managed to, not only to express to me, but no one ever saw me that way. And I think that perfectly illustrates the statement that we only meet others where they're at, or something like this. I don't remember exactly how it states it, but the point I'm trying to make is that because of your level of consciousness and where you are, you were able to see me at that level too.
Mhm.
While the people that I have been with in the past, they saw some bits and pieces and fragments of who I am, and including my appearance, but they didn't see the fullness of it, and the goods and the bads and the uglies and the flaws and the imperfections and the vulnerabilities and the insecurities and everything that I as a normal human being have within me. And that's the beauty, that despite all of that, you still made me feel so accepted and loved, and like I I just accept you and want you no matter what. Like, you are so amazing with all of these things, and I will never, leave you. I will never run away just because you are vulnerable or you are not perfect or you are whatever. And yeah, so that was a huge part for me also, to be seen at that level and to be accepted and loved, where it's like, huh, interesting. Why did that happen? Because I worked on that myself. I have been intentionally working on loving myself first and foremost, accepting myself first and foremost. Hence, I designed my relationship guide that's on my website exactly in order to heal all of the parts of myself so that the other person is able to meet me there. And if I wouldn't have done that work, you wouldn't have seen beyond my German mask. You would have still seen just the mask, just like it was back last year when we first had the conversation back in July
Or
2022.
or you would not have been able to receive it. Even if I saw
Exactly.
it, you can't receive it because you are not
Exactly.
ready to see yourself. So the way I want to compliment what you said is that the scariest thing that people experience when they are working with me is being seen. Is the scariest thing because they have to see themselves at the depth that I see them. And I see everything. I see your ugliness. I see your beauty. And most of the times you have not seen it yourself and you're not ready to see it or you're too scared to see it. Some people are scared of seeing their ugliness and some people are scared of seeing their beauty because both have a very different effect on you. When you see your beauty, you realize how much power you have. It's very scary because then you start realizing, oh shit, I have power. That means I have to take responsibility. That means I have to do something. And that is scary because you have to become an owner or a creator in your life. And that is scary. So, and on the other hand, seeing your ugliness is also scary because it means accepting that you're not perfect in this way that you're supposed to be perfect. So it is challenging to meet someone like me and someone like you because we see and we accept, but you have to be ready to do that yourself. And if you're not, it can be very intimidating to meet someone like us. And that's why, like, I have designed my life in a way that I have very strong filters of who can come into my life and who can have contact with me. Most people don't have contact with me and they're not even ready to have contact with me. And my boundaries, my energy has become very clear now that when someone comes into my life, they're ready for big shifts to happen or big shifts are happening already. So it's just something people don't realize that being seen, I think, is the ultimate trip, is the ultimate experience, is to really fully be seen.
Hmm. And one more thought, when it comes to related to what we spoke about in one of the previous YouTube videos on not letting external circumstances dictate your life. A huge thing is also, how willing are you to live your life on your terms, despite what other people will think or say, or how they are going to judge you or blame you or whatever is gonna whatever disturbances are going to occur. So for me, a huge shift was also when I realized that I need to own whatever it is that my heart is telling me, whatever that feels right to me, despite what people are going to tell me. And I didn't realize it before. Like, I have to admit that I didn't realize before all of this happened, when it came to the surface, that I cared far too much what other people might think or say. And only when I started being like, wait a second, it's my life. I am deciding, I am dictating how my life is unfolding. I'm the one choosing who I'm with and why I'm with them. And okay, fine. If some people will say something about it, it says more about them than about me or us. And yeah, that was a huge revelation for me as well, to own it and to be comfortable with, you know what, I feel so powerful to choose how my life unfolds, and who I choose to be with and why. And the reasons why, I think, for the listeners, you need to, like I did with my criteria, you have never written it down of how you envision your
But I
partner,
knew, yeah.
but you knew how you envision a relationship or your partner to be. I have actually written it all down years ago already, and I was working on that list for quite a while. And it, like, you're matching all of the things, like pretty much everything. And you, listener, think about it. What is it that you want? How do you want that person to be? How do you want to feel around them? How do you want to be seen?
I think these two are the most important. How do you, how, because I did not realize that till I met you, that what the thing I was enjoying the most was how I felt when I was with you. And it was such a shock to me to realize that that is so important.
Yeah. So I would definitely encourage you to write things down to make it crystal clear. How do you want to feel? How do you want to experience this person or the relationship itself? What kind of dynamic you envision? Um, what matters to both of you? What kind of values you have? Are you compatible? Like, that's another thing that became so clear to me compared to any of my previous relationships, is that even though there are some things that we're definitely different at, but there, to a large extent, on a daily basis, we're extremely compatible, and it's effortless. And I think a lot of the times people mold themselves to fit into another person's rhythm or another person's habits or something like that.
Because most people don't know themselves. They don't even know
Exactly.
what they want. So they just fit into what the other wants. Or they have a very rigid idea of what they want and they don't have flexibility. So I think it's a dance. It's something in between. Like,
Exactly.
okay, you don't have to completely mold, but you also don't have to be completely rigid. There is a dance there.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely turning you into a breakfast eater.
Yes.
So,
Which I did not do for pretty much like 15 years.
and what are you doing to me? I
Well,
eat more candy because of
yes,
him,
I'm perverting
and
you with chocolate and
pizzas.
candy and pizzas and burgers and junk food. My favorite cuisine is junk food. So basically,
Like, who of all the, spiritual teachers and personal development people would say, oh, just eat junk food?
well, my metabolism has been trained to handle junk food. So it works for me.
And you used to be a vegan, and then you were like, oh, that's also
Well,
not
I
really
went through
working.
phases. So I was eating everything. My primary diet was junk food. Then I went to full vegetarian for 3 years. Then I did 2 years more of vegan. And then I went back to eating everything. And then I went back to making junk food my primary diet again.
Diet. Primary diet is what? Anyway, it doesn't mean that I always eat junk food anyway, but
Yeah.
but I'm definitely eating more of that than I ever used to in the past. So we're being flexible and
But
we're
I will
influencing each other.
I will propose my theory is that I believe metabolism is a function of consciousness. And the more refined your consciousness, the faster your consciousness is, the faster your metabolism is. And the cleaner your consciousness, the less programs that you're holding, the less shit you're holding on in your conscious and your unconscious, the more your metabolism can process junk and let it go and not hold on to it. My opinion, based on my experience and learning everything I have with energy and all of that, is that the more toxic beliefs and programs and traumas that you're holding in your consciousness, the physical toxins, that much more you will hold on to them. You can eat junk and release the toxins if your body is clean, if your mind is clean, if your emotions, everything is cleansed, your body will keep flowing. Like, I don't put on weight. I can eat a whole pizza followed by a burger or whatever, and the next day I'm good.
I think it's a beautiful metaphor also why in my case when I released um all of the energy, stored energy about my ex, for example, or the past relationships or my past life in general, and why was it so easy for me to adjust as soon as I landed in Brazil or like a couple of weeks later, is because I cleansed. I
Mhm.
I had that pure energy already, and I have worked on myself a lot to release a lot of the stored traumas and all of the stuff that was still active inside of me, and I healed all of them or most of them.
And you
That
stop
enabled
drinking
me.
coffee.
And I stopped drinking coffee, for example. So there were a lot of things that happened, that enabled me to just be able to a clean conduit.
So I think also, along with like stopping coffee was one sign, but what you mentioned earlier is that you had this vision of guys who would be working out and keep being active or whatever. And I think one of the reasons for doing that is to have a good body shape. And I managed to maintain that without doing a lot of physical activity. But I am doing a lot of other activities in my mind and everything, keeping my energy clean. So I believe that there are multiple ways to do the same thing also.
I think absolutely there are multiple ways, and for some people it is still being very active and going to the gym or surfing or whatever it is that they like doing. And for me, I also want to talk a little bit about the whole coffee topic, because like, oh, why, like, why is that a big deal? Well, it was just an experiment. As soon as I landed in Brazil, I was kind of inspired, I guess, by you, to just change my routines. And I thought, you know what, it's a new chapter. I will experiment with new routines, new habits, and see how it goes. So I thought, I'm not going to even buy coffee and not have it in my house, and therefore I will not have it, which I used to have twice a day, more or less. And what happened 3 weeks later when I had my first cup of coffee after such a break was that suddenly my whole energy was so irritable. It was so agile and in this very negative way, where we were walking in the town, local town, and everything was annoying me. And I was so like on the edge. I even was using this phrase, on the edge. I always feel on the edge, and as if something is going to happen and I will have to punch somebody in the face. So like there was this very
Yeah.
strange energy that I wasn't even used to anymore, because in those 3 weeks, I cleansed myself so much that I realized that what coffee was doing to me, my body, my consciousness, my awareness, my being, is that it was kind of squeezing me. It was not letting me be free and just go with the flow, but it was squeezing me and almost imprisoning me in this like, "Urgh." And that's why I don't miss coffee at all. And certainly I recommend everybody who is listening to this to try this. You don't have to give up coffee for the rest of your life. Just try. Do this experiment for 2, 3 weeks and see how it feels. And then once you do have a cup of coffee again, see the difference.
And also then people are like, oh, but how will you have energy? How will you wake up in the morning and do things? Like, a lot of people become dependent on coffee for that. And yes, you may have withdrawal definitely. But
But how long does that
3 weeks,
work? Three
exactly
weeks.
3 weeks is coffee withdrawals. Like that's the general, the average. On average, it takes people 3 weeks to flush coffee from their system and for their system to regain a normal level of energy. So you may have crashes and you may feel like shit for those 3 weeks. But also, like if you need to depend on a substance for energy, that is saying something. Where is your vitality? Where is your energy? Why is your energy not flowing in that level? Because I don't consume any substances for energy. I have done diets where I'm not even eating for a few days, but I am full of energy most of the time. I'm with a lot of energy and I'm not exercising a lot. I'm not drinking coffee, but I have a lot of energy. Where is that coming from? It's my consciousness. I have activated that level of energy and it's possible to do that. So
What if some people would say, oh, but you probably always had a lot of energy?
no, I was super depressive. I used to be using substances all the time for energy and I could not be functional without
Mhm.
taking substances. And when I stopped taking substances, I became depressive because I had depression already and I was using substances to avoid the depression. But once I started healing my depression, I realized why I was depressed. I realized why I did not want to use my energy. I realized why I had put my energy to sleep and started healing and changing. And now I'm at levels of energy that are bizarre because there are some my regular rhythm is that in I usually have 2 or 3 week cycles where I'm sleeping about 3 to 4 hours a night for most nights, and then I will sleep for 7 or 8 hours for a few days, and then I'm back to sleeping 3 or 4 hours or 5 hours.
Which is insane. I cannot imagine how you do that.
But I'm super active and I'm doing a lot of work. I'm creating things. I'm not like, oh, I slept only 3 hours. I don't start complaining. I'm like, oh wow, I have so many ideas. I'm so inspired. Let me do something with that. I have more time. People keep complaining about time, and
You
that
can
is
create time.
you can create time. Yeah.
Although I'm not really creating time because I do still sleep not 8 hours a night.
Well, you'll get there. Maybe if you want to. But I'm not saying you have to sleep like you don't have to sleep less. My comment is mainly about levels of energy. You can activate very high levels of energy and it's not unhealthy. Like when I'm sleeping 3 or 4 hours a night, it's not like I'm feeling unhealthy or I'm feeling bad. I'm feeling great.
Yeah, and you also are great. Like I don't feel you in any other, like you're not different when you have slept
Yeah.
less.
I'm in that sense, my consciousness is very stable. Like my emotions, my moods are very stable, even if I sleep less. So people will be like, oh, your hormones will go crazy, you'll start having anger issues, you'll have emotional outbursts or breakdowns.
You're like
No,
a monk. So when will you stop I don't know, eating?
why will I stop eating? I love eating. I love junk food. I love healthy food also, but I love eating in general.
I went yesterday to a nice market festival thing, and I was looking for a cake that's like raw and super healthy ingredients. And he's like, I'm just going for the typical chocolate thing with lots of sugar and everything.
Yes. After some delicious noodles and pizzas and local food.
Hmm. Yeah. So coming back to relationships.
Yeah, yeah. So one distinction, I don't know if you want to talk about the distinction between magnetic and beautiful, because a few weeks back, on or a few episodes back, you said I am very magnetic. But then now you started seeing me as beautiful. So what's the difference between magnetic and beautiful?
Hmm. Um, so I would say that beautiful includes magnetic, and you are now beautiful in a very holistic way, where yes, you still are magnetic, you are still that person that I'm like, he's amazing, like such an amazing human being, and I love you for who you are. just like I did at the time. And that, I think, is another topic, that it all started with friendship.
Mhm.
That I loved you since day one as a friend, as a close friend, as someone that I could trust, someone that I admire, someone that I look up to, someone that I know who is there for me. And there are basically no questions asked. And um, all of that magnetism was a part of that, that it's just like, you know who you are, just like I know who I am. And we honor that in each other, and we respect that in each other. And to me, that's what being magnetic means, that you know who you are to the extent that you don't give a shit about what people think. And therefore, like you said earlier, you are very careful of who you include in your life, who you allow into your world, into your energy field, and who you don't. Um, and then what shifted is simply that I started seeing that, oh, it's not only about being magnetic, it's also about being really beautiful, imperfectly perfect. Because again, just like I am not perfect, you are also not perfect. But it's also the beauty of it. And um yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah. One more thing that's probably interesting to people is that this is my first relationship in 13 years. And I was single for 13 years, but I was not alone. I was not lonely. I was alone, but I was not lonely. And the reason I did not enter into a relationship for 13 years is that, yeah, the first few years I was still recovering from the breakup. And then uh, that is when I realized that I am very sure that I don't want to enter into a relationship again, which is not perfect in my head. Meaning, I am done with drama and relationships. I'm done having these super uh, emotional rides, and I want a stable relationship, a mature relationship, an adult relationship where there is also playfulness and curiosity and uh, a lot of acceptance and a lot of love and a lot of support, a lot of respect for each other. And basically, I wanted everything. That was my criteria. I want everything. And I am not,
And somebody who is super hot.
yes.
You
And
had that?
no, like, yeah, I mean, I was not super, so in my list, which I never wrote down, but in my list, appearances were not a priority. For me, the person was the priority. And yeah, of course, like, we all have some kind of uh, preferences for appearances, but it was not a dominant preference for me. And um,
It has to be a white woman though.
what? You're the first white woman I'm dating, so I don't know why you're saying that.
Because of the conversations we had.
That is a whole dynamic for Indians, like white people and Indians is a whole thing. But anyway, coming back to my point, um, the thing that a lot of people kept saying is you're being too idealistic. You're being too you're being too strict with your requirements, and you have to compromise, and there is no such thing as a perfect relationship, and there is, like you have to love whoever you are with. And like, yeah, I love the people I'm with. I love my friends. I love my family. I can love anyone. I love my client, but that doesn't mean I have to be in a relationship with them. And in a relationship, I want to be with the perfect person. And if that means I'm never going to be in a relationship, I'm okay with that. And so 13 years was a lifetime for a lot of people. They'll be like, oh, it's never going to happen. And it happened. And for me, the moment I met you, a few weeks later, I knew that this is happening. That was the knowing that I have, that this is perfect, this is happening, and I have no doubt about it. So I feel like, yes, people can become delusional, people can be too idealistic, but if you if you work on yourself, you can find an ideal relationship. If you're just going to be wishful and you're just going to feel like a victim and want the universe to give you the perfect partner without putting any effort in becoming a perfect partner yourself.
That's exactly what I meant. You have to work on yourself first and become the match to that person that you want to be with.
Exactly. If you're going to be a shithead and want the perfect partner, you're being delusional, yes. And that is why it took me 13 years, is because I was not this, I was not a great person. I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of issues. And at that level, I was attracting certain people. And I know the relationships that would have created would have been very dramatic and very toxic.
We
And
attract who we are at that time.
yeah, and doing this work for 13 years, or not for 13 years, for the last 8 years mainly, but taking that break for 13 years, doing this work for 8 years, I became this person and I found someone, or created, I would say created a partner who matches me.
Yeah. And
But it's a very interesting phrase, created. People are like, what do you mean created? She already existed. She existed, but she was not my partner. I created the partner.
just like I created you as
Yes,
well. And
exactly.
that was, in my case, it was that list, but it was the energy behind the list.
Mhm.
It was the energy that I created as well, again within myself, and then you appeared, and vice versa. And what I wanted to share also on
Just
top of,
just one sec. Even the last 7 weeks, I think the reason it took 7 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever it took to reach the point that we entered into a relationship is that we were working a lot on ourselves to reach that full alignment. Because there were some things which, for me, for example, like receiving love was a huge blockage and had already worked a lot on it. But when you came into my life, the level of love that you have and the level of love that you give is so intense, is so much that I was having a very difficult time receiving it. And I started crying a few times, and I had several challenging moments where you were like literally breaking my walls with your love, and I allowed that to happen. So, and then you had several experiences, lots of tears, but I said this, we make each other cry in the most beautiful ways. It's not painful as a bad thing. It's the best kind of thing that we have both been experiencing. And uh yeah, like that is what brought us to that full alignment where we were ready, really ready for the relationship. Because even we spoke about that, like had we started right at the beginning or had we started somewhere in between, it would not have been this great experience that it has been.
yeah. And not only that we pushed all the buttons in each other before we became a couple, but also we will continue doing so. And
Yeah,
that's the power of a union, that you keep on pushing all the buttons unintentionally or intentionally, but you know that that person can handle it. Not only that they can handle it, but they actually welcome it because they want to grow, so that they heal all of those active wounds and traumas and release them, so that they become more and more pure. And I think we're going to push those buttons for the rest of our lives. So that's the beauty of it. And what I wanted to also add is that your conviction, that knowingness, that even though I was laughing every single time when he said something like, oh, we're going to be together, or things like that, and he would just throw them in the middle of a conversation out of nowhere, I was just laughing every time. But the thing is that, I realized it or not, it was that conviction, that knowingness, and that determination that, you know what, I don't care what you think, but this is what's going to happen. It was hot. Like for me, I didn't even realize until now, like listening to you speaking, it was the one thing that I think most people don't realize, or they underestimate the power of conviction, or um their attitude to want what they want and to go after it relentlessly. And that's exactly what made me, or contributed to me seeing you in a different way, because I was like, wow, I've never been pursued in such a way where it's not like you actively pursued me. It was more like, I just know we're gonna be together.
I was not trying to convince you of
No,
anything.
it's
No.
like, and that was like, whoa, it's not just a game. It's not just some kind of a let's play this ping pong and hide and seek type of situation. It was just like, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, yeah. So I
Like
had a
you
lot of
you
patience.
you can go back to Europe, you can get back together with your ex. At some point we are going to be together anyway. And
Yeah, I
and
was.
that, now when I recall back, it's like, whoa, how hot is that? Like, how attractive is that when man or a woman or whoever has that conviction that's so unshakable that you just can't resist it after a while.
Mhm. Yeah, and then so yeah, like just backtracking a little bit about pushing buttons. I would say more than pushing buttons is pushing each other to grow. This is something we both want, and we
Mhm.
do it both consciously and unconsciously. Like many times unconsciously, we're stepping on each other's buttons, but then we make it conscious, and then we encourage each other to grow. We coach each other also. Like you're a coach, I'm a coach, or whatever. Like we play that role too. So it's a very multi-dimensional relationship. Like you at some point in the last few weeks, you're like, you are my teacher. That's what you said. And it's the first time you felt that way about anyone. And I also felt the same way about you, that you are teaching me a lot. And so we are teaching each other, we love each other, we are friends, or we were friends even before the romance developed. And there's and then the family dynamic is there. So it's such a rich relationship. It's so multidimensional.
Yeah, and what makes it so exciting for me is indeed that our lives now really mold into something very, very profound, with the roles of coaches or facilitators or guides, however you want to call it, with the dimension of being romantic lovers, with the dimension of working together and building a beautiful project together, with the dimension of being like parents to three fur babies, or being just friends who are there to support each other, and so many more levels and layers that come with that. And I think one topic that we also wanted to cover is how sex is not as important as I personally believed before
It's not
this.
the foundation of the relationship, it's just one pillar.
And that was a huge shift for me, because in the past, whenever I was in a romantic relationship, sex was like almost like the cornerstone of the entire relationship and was holding everything. And if it wasn't great, then the rest was also kind of wobbly. And now, because of all these dimensions, because of all these roles and all the hats that we are wearing, and this multidimensionality in our relationship, sex is just one of the pillars amongst all the other pillars. And it's important, sure, but it's not the one thing that we focus on. And it makes it so much more holistic and so much more profound and so much deeper
And
also,
free also,
and free. Yeah.
because it's not like it's not something that's an activity that has to be like, it's not obsessive, it's just, it's free. Like I don't know how else to explain it, because I feel like in those kinds of relationships it's like mandatory or obligatory that every time you're together you have to, that becomes a part of it.
And one more dimension is how I always laugh at your Indian accent, honey.
And one of the imperfections, you asked what is your imperfection. And that imperfection is that you don't like the TV shows, all of them that I like, because I like to watch a lot of TV. And that was a little,
I'm picky with TV shows.
yeah. And that was a little bit disappointing because some of my favorite TV shows you do not like. So,
But I will still continue teasing you on your Indian accent.
and I love it. I love your terrible imitations of my Indian accent.
Ah.
So that was that. Yeah, and just to add a detail that in all the times that I was expressing my conviction or like, what you call planting seeds or like, saying that, yeah, we'll be together. You only kept laughing. You never said no. And that's why I titled this episode, She Said Never, but She Never Said No. And there is a difference between no and never that people need to understand. No is in the present. Never is a plan. And plans have a way of changing. The other way I like to say it is that never say never because never has its own plan. So the other thing I want to say is that I am kind of speaking for you, but you can own it if you want or disown it if you want. Is that you saying that conviction is hot was not an invitation for other guys who are convinced.
Are you getting jealous?
No,
It's gonna happen anyway. You
I
you
know,
realize it or not,
I know,
there will be some
but
people who like challenges.
I'm just saying, like, men can take anything as an invitation. Oh, she finds this hot. Now I will do this. I will become obsessed. But I think the reason I want to highlight that is that there is a difference between conviction and obsession. That was my real point behind the joke, is that conviction is the knowingness inside you and is not from the mind. And the mind is still, it's stable, it's not constantly, will you be with me? Will you be with it's not asking, it's saying you will be with me. Whereas obsession is that craving, that desire from the mind, and it's not really coming from the heart. It's not coming from the deep place. And it's just about winning the game. It's winning the competition. It's possessing that person, owning that person. I will make her mine. It's like kind of that trophy uh mindset of I have to get that achievement, that victory. Whereas the conviction for me was just like, yeah, you can actually, if what you feel is most right for you is to go back to that relationship, have another 3 or 5 or 10 relationships before you realize that this is where home is. Okay, like that's fine for me. I don't own you, I don't possess you, and live your life. And I just know it's going to happen anyway. So it's not that obsessive. I have to have her. It's just
It's
I
so
will have.
beautiful.
I will be with her. I will not have her. I will be with her.
It's so beautiful. And the whole obsession is it's always about um having lack within yourself and wanting to fit it with something, shove something down and as if that's going to fulfill you or that's going to make you feel better about yourself. That's going to be a badge of honor that you can walk around with this woman or with that thing or driving that car or whatever it is, but actually it's just an empty obsession that's never going to fix the actual issue. And that's the thing with conviction, it's just it's coming from such a different place where you know who you are, you know what you want, you know how your life is going, you have healed all of those wounds, all of that void. There's, I guess there are some still
Yeah, of course.
parts that need to be worked on, but in that particular topic with the romantic relationship topic, it wasn't that anymore. And
Mhm.
well job through 13 years. Well done. Great job. Hmm.
Yeah, I think we've covered pretty much everything that we had on the list.
Well, so the announcement just happened. It wasn't an invitation for anyone, indeed. I am like,
Also, I'm canceling the invitation to the women that we made. So 2 or 3 episodes back we recorded that we published. When she said never, basically she was making an invitation for women to come to this magnetic guy. So that invitation is cancelled also.
well, we're inviting people to come and work with us
Yeah,
if you want to create amazing relationships. I'm actually focusing mainly on relationship topics in my coaching practice. So I help people to love themselves, build a great relationship with themselves first and foremost, again, because that's how you become a match to what you want and how you want to experience your relationships, whether they are existing relationships or you want to create or attract someone new into your life. You also help people.
yeah. But before I talk about me, I also want to say that we are also doing co-coaching. If you want to be coached by both of us together, have this dynamic, this energy dynamic, uh, which is very powerful. We've already experimented with it a bit and it's very interesting. So that's a new offer, is co-coaching with both of us. And if you can handle me alone, send me a message. That's my invitation.
Plus, we're also inviting people to come to Brazil once the project is up and running.
Yes, which we'll talk about separately what the project is, because we are just saying the project and leaving it as a mystery.
Something very, very exciting is
And also, like,
happening.
if someone does want to uh play the game and try and seduce one of us, it's not like we are close to that. Like, there is no possessiveness or ownership or a sense of insecurity. Like,
We like challenges.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
sure.
you can try. Nothing's gonna happen, but give it your best shot. I like to say that, a lot of people enter into, like, men especially enter into this very macho competitive mindset of
Oh, yeah.
winning the game, or like, oh, I will win this. She will choose me. Like,
I'm so much better. I'm so much
yeah,
hotter. I have so much more money. Oh, come here to my beautiful villa and I will, make you happy.
and the only thing I'll say, I'm not even playing the game. So play whatever game. Like, this is the competitive mindset is I no longer even play the game. So you're competing with whom? You're competing with your own ghosts, with your own demons, with your own shadows, with your own mind. So be crazy, do what you want.
Love it. Awesome.
So
Thank you,
that's it.
honey. Thank you, honey.
And that's it. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. Speak to you next time.
Speak to you.
Speak to you. And I'm going to kill some mosquitoes now.
Ciao.